is Ed Robinson, Kensington College. We're talking about Access Database today. What is a database? Well, your idea probably is something which looks like this. We have data with headings, person and balance. And you're going to say, well, that doesn't look very much different from Excel table. Indeed, it doesn't. So we'll point out what the differences are. First of all, a database itself contains things beside data. It contains things that we can do on the data. At the moment, we have a table. I'll just close that table, and you can see here, there it is. If I want to open it, I'm going to double click on it, and that's the table of data. But we have something else here as well. We have what we call a query. Now, a query is something which, when we operate it, will find out everyone, in this case, who's got £20. So I'm going to operate that query, and you'll see that it produces Joe, who's got £20. We also have what we call a form. Now, a form is just another way of looking at the data. It's quite cosmetic, really, but you can put buttons on it as well. We also have a report. Now, a report is just like a form, really, but it's suitable for printing. We can just send that straight to the printers, rather like an invoice. So let's start off by creating this table, and we're going to create a database with a table in it for a start. Now, you might say, well, as we mentioned before, this is very much like an Excel table where you've got person and balance of the headings, but there is a difference in Access, and the difference is that we have to actually create this container in the first place. And we want to create it, and we'll have to create the field names, we call them, which are person and balance. In Excel, you just go away and type, but in Access, you have to create the container itself. So let me start from the beginning. I'll just come out of that, and I'll start from the very beginning. So I'm going to double click on Access, and that should start Access, and I'm going to start off by creating a database. And so I can click on here. We've got a blank database, so you might as well give it a name of some description. I'll call that, say, test down here. I'm typing the name test, and I'll click on create, and I'm choosing a blank database. Well, I've already got a database, so I'll say no, I don't want to. What I'll do, I'll just call it test1, and then create that, and I've created a new database. Now, it's created a table for me. I think I'll close that table. I don't really want that, so I'm going to click on that and close it. Okay, so how do I create a table? The answer is I go to create, and then go to table design up here, and then I want the field names. Now, if you remember that the field names were called person, and the other one was called balance. But notice how I'm putting them vertically. And now the other thing which is different from Excel is that we have to say what type of data they are. In Excel, you just go away and type the stuff in. But within person, oh, okay, text is fine by me, but what about the balance? We really ought to make that, well, how about number? I'll make it currency, and that'll put pound signs in for us as well. So you see, at the moment, I've created the design of a table. Now, if I want to see that, what it looks like for the moment, I click on up here where it says view, and that will view the table. Must save it first, okay, and I'll say table 1, that's good enough for me, and no primary key. I'll come back to that. I'll just say no for the moment. Now, this is where we can put our data in. So I'll type in the data, looks like I've got an autocorrect operating there, so I'll stop creating, and okay, we don't usually get that effect, but now I've got a table, and let me take a look at this table. So if I click up here, you'll see it's got a design view. I could also right click on it and choose this design view, so I'll do that and click that. Now that takes us back to the design of the table, so you might want to change the name of it, of the field name. You might want to change, put an extra field name in, like you want to put the telephone number or something like that. Or etc., and that would be a text, by the way, as well, so that when we open it up, you'll see I've got a new. Now whenever we make a change to the design of the table, then it'll ask you if you want to save it. But if you put data in, you'll notice that if I put anything in here, it won't ask me. It'll just go ahead and do it. Now, if I close the table, I'll come here and close the table. You'll see there's my table. If I want to open it up again, I double click on it. Now, I double click on it, will open it up in that particular view. But now the whole secret of Access is that everything that we create, there's two ways of looking at it. So I can go into the design view. If I might as well just right click and choose design view. This is when you want to alter the actual field names. Then the other one, if I want to go to open, is one way of doing it to get back to that, or you could have clicked up here to get this particular view. Now, but that is the whole point, you see. You can switch between views of the same object. So every object in Excel is like that. It's got the design view where you change the headings or the layout, and the data input view as well. I'm now going to create a query. I'm going to close the table first of all, and I'm going to just have my table highlighted here, and I'm going to go to this query design up here. Now, what I'm going to do is to find everyone who's got £20 in that table. So there, show table, that'll show what tables are available to query, and then I'll click on that and add that particular table. And then close, that's fine. And by the way, if that show table wasn't available, if I click that, you see that was the table that appeared before. If it doesn't appear automatically, then you just click on this up here, the show table. So now I've got fields, and I can just bring this up a little bit, and I've got fields upon which I'm going to query. Now what I can do, there's a couple of ways I can do this to get all the things. I can click on this star here, which just brings a star down, but I'm going to double click on this. It's a nice way of doing it, and therefore if I just double clicked on the blue heading up there, then I can drag these down, the field names. Now keep in mind what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find everyone who's got 10. Well, I don't really need that telephone at all. I'll go and I'll just delete that actually. And now if I now go to the criteria, remember it's the balance is going to be 10, and the criteria, you see, is that row there. So where they two meet, if you like, I'm going to type 10. So I want to find everyone who's got £10. I think I might have said 20 before. I could have run this now. I can run this now by clicking on the run, and that produces everyone who's got £10. Now the thing is that the table itself, if I double click on the table, you see the table is still got everything in it. We're not actually changing the table at all. So I'm going to close that table by clicking over here. But the query is just another way of looking at things. It is not permanent. It's what we call a data set. It's a set of data which is being presented to us on the screen. So for example, if we were to, well, I'll close that query, and notice that when it's asking, I've changed the design, well, I've made a new query, so I'll say yes, I'll keep that, and query 1 is good enough, so there it is. Now take a look at query 1, table rather. If I give Rob 10, what did I say, 10, wasn't it? So if I give Rob 10, and now I run my query, you'll see the new query has picked up Rob as well. So let me just close all that and close the table. Let's now talk about making a form. Just take a look at our table again. We want to make a form which based upon that table. I'll just close that table for the moment. Now, a form, once again, we go up here to the form design, as you can see up here. Form design, I click and I highlight. I've got my table 1 highlighted. I click on form design, and now this is a blank form, obviously. Now what I need to do is to put in some fields. If you look up here, it says add existing fields. So I click on that, show all tables, and it's table 1 that I'm interested in, and I want to base my form upon the person and the balance. I won't worry about the telephone for the moment. Now, by the way, while we're here, if you want to move these things around in the form, just grab them if they're both highlighted like that. But if you want to move one individually, it's a little bit, takes a bit of getting used to. You can just click on the little thing itself up here, and then you can adjust it to. There's all sorts of ways you can lay out your control. You can highlight them and make them evenly spaced and all that sort of thing. But just for the moment, I want to show the view of the form, which is here. So I click here, and you can see now. You can see at the bottom here that I'll get data, and I can just scroll through the data. I'm looking at the bottom here now. If I go to that takes me to the last blank record. There's another way of doing it. See the little sunshine thing down here? That will take you to the last record plus one, and then we can put in some more data, and maybe £20. And then, by the way, I didn't make that currency. But never mind. So if I now the very active, you see, I'm on record 5 at the moment. The very active going on to another record by clicking that, it will add something to the table. I'll open up the table, and you can see Sue with her £20 is being added on at the end. So let me just close that table. So I'll just close that form. It's going to ask me, do I want to save the changes? Yes, I do. So form 1's good enough. So you can see there that form 1 is produced. Lastly, I'm going to produce a report. Now, as I mentioned before, a report is just another way of looking at the data in order for it to be printed. So I can come up here somewhere. I'll make sure table 1 is highlighted and go to my report design here and click on that, and it's got the field list. But notice this is, if it doesn't, that field list doesn't show. You can see you can click on this up here and get the field list. Now what I'm going to do is to drag these down just like I did for the form, and put them where I wish, and I'll leave the telephone for the moment. Just move that over a little bit, and now you can adjust these. Now I put it into the details section. You see, the page header is something which appears on every page of it. But this is the basic work area of a report. Now, if I want to see the report, I can go to the view up here and go to print preview, and you can see the results of our form. So let's say I want to bring these up a bit closer together. What I can do is go back to the design. Remember the two ways of looking at every object, and now I'll go back to the design view. This was the so I'll click on design view, and now what I'll do is just bring this up a bit. There's some very funny goings on sometimes, but if I now take a look at my report, I'll go back here in the view. It's really between the print preview and the design view we're talking about. So I'll click on the print preview, and you can see the records are set out like that. You might want to delete the labels on that, for example, if I want to go back into the design. Well, that's if you actually want to really print that out. Now that's the point. You can print the whole thing out and make it look more like an invoice or something or other. So I'll just cancel that and go back to the design. And you might not be interested in having those labels there as well, so I'll just delete those and take a look at the report, and that's how you can then print it out. I can also click up here. There are lots of ways of looking at the two different views. If I click on here, that will close the print preview view and takes me back to the design. Well, I can close the report, and it says, do I want to save it? Yes. So whenever I'm changing the design of something, it's going to ask me, and then I'll say yes, I do, and report 1's a good enough name for me. And now you can see all the objects that we've got in the Access database: a table, which contains the data; a query, which is used for extracting data; a form, which is used for viewing the data; and a report, which is used for printing out the data.